A delegation of Kiwi Korean war veterans have recently returned from a trip that marked 60 years since a ceasefire brought peace to the area. Veterans Affairs Minister Michael Woodhouse joined them on the journey, and he's here this evening to tell us how it all went. Good evening.
Evening, Rebecca.
Tell us about New Zealand's involvement in Korea.
Well, I think little was known about South Korea when New Zealand answered the call of the UN to come and support them after the North Korean invasion. But we sent about 6,000 naval and army troops over about a 3-year period of the war, and then following the armistice. So it really was a pretty significant commitment after we were exhausted by the Second World War to do that. And any of those veterans going back, the first thing they hear from a Korean person is thank you. There's a real sense of gratitude about New Zealand's commitment.
Tell us a wee bit about the group that you travelled with.
30 veterans, aged between mid-70s and about 90, I think was our oldest, accompanied by a medical team, the catafalque and ceremonial group, and a fantastic Maori cultural group, made up about 100 Kiwis on this trip, so it was a pretty large delegation. And because the Prime Minister was there as our head of state, we got quite a good profile while we were there.
Now, the veterans took part in a ceremony to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Korean War armistice. What was that like?
Well, that was one of about 3 main ceremonies. The Saturday ceremony had about 6,000 people there, so we were a pretty small footprint. But on the Thursday, a very emotional trip to Kapyong, which was the site of New Zealand's probably most famous battle in the Korean War. And then on Sunday to Busan, which is where our war dead are buried in the Korean War Graves cemetery. A very, very emotional day, and I think that kind of underpinned the sense of the week.
Tell us what it was like to visit the demilitarised zone.
Oh, a pretty unusual place, quite Orwellian really, and a marked contrast between the south and the north. Yes, there is a lack of war, but there isn't a real peace while the tensions remain on that border, and it was quite a unique experience. What
other activities did the veterans take part in?
Oh, well, there were a few receptions hosted by both Korean authorities, and the New Zealand Prime Minister hosted a reception. So a lot of glad-handing, really, I think, between them and some South Korean veterans, which was really nice. But the days were pretty full for them, and given their senior years, it was quite a tiring trip, but they did very well.
What was it like travelling with them? Was there quite a bit of reminiscing going on?
Oh, lots of stories being told, and I think that will be a long-lasting memory for me. But also watching their reaction, having gone back to a city and a country that was devastated when they left, completely in ruins, and now Seoul, one of the world's great cities. It was really quite surprising and eye-opening for them. Do
you think there'll be any more delegations travelling to Korea in the future?
Well, they're getting older. I don't think we'll send a delegation as large as this. We are commemorating Second World War, the 70th, but I think this could be the last big one for Korea.
Now, on a completely different note, and turning our attention back home, what do you make of the latest announcement of job losses at Invermain?
Oh, look, very disappointing and somewhat annoying that I had no notice of this coming. So I'll certainly be referring back to Minister Stephen Joyce this week. I'm yet to be convinced that the case for making those changes stacks, and I'll certainly be examining that pretty thoroughly. But you know what, I understand the sentiment that's been expressed in the city. I support it, and I'll be working hard to see if we can get it changed.
Veterans Affairs Minister Michael Woodhouse, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Rebecca.